Please welcome to the show, Mr. Dan Geltrude, coming to us from Clifton, New Jersey now. Thanks for being on the show, Dan. He's America's accountant. I don't know. We keep coming on talking about how long a piece of string is. So I guess I'll ask you, how long is a piece of string? Because nobody knows when this thing's going to end, do they?
No, they really don't. And if you look at what's happening just today, Scott, as you said, Kevin Warsh, he just stepped into an economic buzzsaw. He's got sticky inflation. He's got rising oil prices. He's got geopolitical uncertainty. I mean, he's hit the trifecta of the challenges that the Fed has. But here's the thing. His credibility is going to be tested immediately, particularly with what you said related to, well, forget about that we're going to be dropping rates. Are we going to have a need to increase rates? So does he protect growth in the markets, or does he prove that he'll crush inflation no matter what the political pressure will be? And political pressure will come, Scott. If we know that about President Trump, he's not going to want to hear a lot of excuses. He's going to want those interest rates to come down. But the fact of the matter is, it's just not going to be possible given where we are and potentially in the foreseeable future.
You're so right. And because the way I look at it is like, basically, the president is his boss, kind of ish, Kabibbo. He put him in there. And so you got a boss that's causing all the inflation, but at the same time wants you to cut rates. And you've got to sit back in your chair and go, hey, if you'd stop with the inflation issues, I'd be able to cut rates. But now you put me in a position. So here we are. And I'm not in the camp yet of rate hikes at all. But I will say this. You can say without a doubt they're not going to be cutting rates right now. And again, then you have to look at the length of time this goes on. And that's when you start to think, okay, this moves on from just a short-term oil spike to then we have to worry about recessionary things. But if we're worried about recession things, we're not going to be hiking rates then. I mean, this could destroy demand enough that we might get those interest rate cuts. But sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. But we might get them for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, you're right, Scott. And look, we're not there yet, right? We're watching what's playing out here, and we already know that the president is highly motivated to end this conflict in Iran. But that's not going to end tomorrow, I don't think, because I think Iran's position in all this is to continually stall. So I think they're going to force the president's hand to end this. And I'm a little bit concerned here, Scott, that there's no way to end this without further wartime efforts here. And to me, that's a bad solution to a terrible problem. But it may be the only solution. Now that we're there, there's no just pulling out. We're there. We have to finish what we started. And it's going to be problematic because the longer this conflict goes on, the more economic pressure the entire world is going to feel, Scott. So there's no easy way or short-term way out of this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I heard I can't remember who the general was, but it was definitely after World War II, and I was reading a book about it, and there's an age-old saying, and you see it in shops when you go shopping all the time, but you break it, you own it. We broke it, and so now he's probably going to have to own it because we have to find a way out. And you're right, there's 90 million people there. Do you really want to go get rid of all of their social, all their services, their water, their electricity? I mean, there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences if that's the case. And they're fighting like they're Monty Python figures, right? It's just a mere flesh wound. They're lying to themselves all the time, but they're not going away. They're still resolute. And I brought this up maybe to you before, I can't remember, but it's crazy how sometimes these people are delusional about how they want to stay in the fight because you don't have to go back very far. You can go back to the Japanese in World War II. After the first atomic bomb we dropped, the Emperor's cabinet, they were resolute. They still wanted to be in the fight. And then 3 days later, we hit Nagasaki, and it was disastrous for them. And even then, a majority of the Emperor's cabinet wanted to continue to fight. And if it wasn't for the Emperor, we might still be fighting. Who knows? But that is how the Iranians are going to be. They're not going to want to roll over. They hate us so bad that they'd rather stay in the fight as long to the last man rather than give up. That's the problem, right?
Funny how history repeats itself, right? So you have a group of people who don't want to give up. So what is it that you have to do? Completely destroy their country? And even if you qualify that as victory, it's not. Because now that you've done that, you just said it, you broke it, you own it. So now we decimate a country. We kind of own that now. So now we're going to have more money pouring into that place, Scott, to have to fix it because we'll have a moral obligation to do so. So there's no easy way out. Look, if there was, I'm sure the president would have taken it because, as we keep talking about, politically, there's going to be an enormous amount of pressure building going towards these fall midterm elections. So the clock is ticking. I see the timeline getting shorter and shorter for a solution that works, whether it's politically or economically. So I certainly don't want to be a pessimist here, but we're really up against it.
Well, I don't think it's not a pessimist. It's a realist. And I think this is why I'm kicking off the show with you and this subject, because as the show goes on today, if you're watching out there, stick around because there's other things that are kind of circling this. One of them is OPEC and what happens with OPEC. How much money are we going to have to be involved? How long are we going to be over there? We're going to talk about all those things on the show with other guests going forward because this thing is just an amazing bundle of problems, number one. And number two, have you ever in your professional life, and I'm going to say this probably every segment today, seen one product control all other products like oil has? If oil comes down in price, every single thing we've just talked about gets taken care of.
That's absolutely true, Scott. And you don't have to look any further than just prior to the conflict there, because what were we seeing? We were seeing inflation kind of holding steady, even though we had other inflationary policies like tariffs. So it was easy to say, well, tariffs are not causing inflation because you had an offset with low oil prices. Now, with oil prices going up, Scott, there is no shielding what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'd like to see this happen. I'd like to see some sort of conclusion. We don't need to see oil back down to 65. We just need to see it on its way to 65, right? And I'll go through the 80s and let it take its time because the perception will be everything's going to be okay. And that'll do a lot for the country. The perception will be more powerful than the actual what's actually happening. But we need to get to a place where we can see that oil price making a move back to where it used to be. Boy, this is a can of worms, and it's open, and they broke it, and now they own it. So we'll have to see how it all shakes out. We're going to talk about a lot more of that stuff in the rest of the show. But I appreciate kicking it off with you, Dan. Always great to have you on a Monday. I know you're busy. Dan Geltrude, America's Accountant, Clifton, New